Will Smith, one of the most recognizable faces in Hollywood, an Oscar winner, a box office legend, a global superstar whose career has spanned more than 3 decades, and now, once again, his name is dominating headlines for all the wrong reasons. According to recently filed legal documents, Will Smith is facing a serious lawsuit that threatens to reopen long-standing debates about power, accountability, and what really happens behind the scenes of celebrity culture. This time, the accusations do not come from a rival studio or a public feud, but from someone who worked closely with him. The plaintiff is Brian King Joseph, a professional violinist who allegedly performed on Smith's tour and collaborated with him in a professional capacity. In the lawsuit, Joseph accuses Will Smith of sexual harassment, inappropriate conduct, and wrongful termination, claiming that his career and personal life were damaged as a result of what he describes as a hostile and exploitative environment. From the very beginning of the complaint, the language is direct and unsettling. The lawsuit alleges that Smith used his status, influence, and authority to create situations that crossed professional boundaries, situations the plaintiff claims he felt pressured to tolerate due to the massive power imbalance between a global movie star and a working musician. Smith has strongly denied the allegations through legal representatives, stating that the claims are false, exaggerated, and legally unfounded. His team insists that any professional decisions were made for legitimate reasons and not for retaliation or misconduct. But once a lawsuit like this becomes public, denial alone is rarely enough to stop the story. Because in today's Hollywood, accusations themselves, proven or not, can reshape reputations overnight. And this case is not just about what allegedly happened. It's about when, why, and what it could mean next. Details of the lawsuit and alleged behavior. According to the lawsuit, the working relationship between Will Smith and Brian King Joseph began as a promising professional opportunity. Joseph claims he was invited into Smith's orbit as a touring musician, a role that offered prestige, exposure, and career advancement. However, the complaint alleges that over time, the professional dynamic allegedly shifted. Joseph claims that Smith engaged in behavior that made him uncomfortable, including unwanted advances, inappropriate comments, and actions that allegedly blurred the line between professional collaboration and personal pressure. The lawsuit suggests that these moments did not occur in isolation, but rather as part of a broader pattern of conduct that escalated over time. Crucially, the plaintiff alleges that when boundaries were resisted or when discomfort was expressed, the professional consequences followed. According to the filing, Joseph claims he was removed from projects, excluded from opportunities, and ultimately terminated from his role, not due to performance issues, but as retaliation for not complying with what he describes as inappropriate expectations. The lawsuit frames this as a classic example of power imbalance, a world-famous actor and producer on one side and a working artist on the other, whose livelihood depended on access, approval, and silence. Smith's legal team disputes this entirely. They argue that Joseph's termination was based on legitimate business considerations and that no harassment or retaliation occurred. They maintain that the allegations are being mischaracterized and that the evidence will not support the claims made in court. Still, legal experts point out that cases like this rarely hinge on a single incident. Instead, they focus on patterns, communications, witness testimony, and whether the environment described meets the legal definition of harassment or wrongful dismissal. And once those questions enter a courtroom, they become very hard to control. Industry reaction and why this case matters. The reaction from the entertainment industry was swift, if cautious. Major studios have not commented publicly, and Smith himself has avoided direct statements beyond those issued by his attorneys. But behind the scenes, industry insiders acknowledge a familiar tension: how to respond when one of Hollywood's most bankable stars becomes legally vulnerable. This lawsuit arrives at a particularly sensitive time for Hollywood. In recent years, the industry has been reshaped by public reckonings over misconduct, accountability, and the misuse of power. Careers once thought untouchable have been paused, dismantled, or permanently altered, sometimes by court rulings, sometimes by public opinion alone. For Will Smith, the timing is especially significant. His career was already navigating a fragile recovery following past controversies, with studios carefully weighing risk, audience perception, and long-term brand damage. A case involving allegations of harassment and retaliation threatens to complicate that recovery dramatically. Legal analysts note that even if Smith ultimately prevails in court, the process itself, depositions, discovery, media coverage, can be costly and reputationally damaging. Brands, producers, and partners tend to avoid uncertainty, and lawsuits create exactly that. Meanwhile, advocates for workplace accountability argue that cases like this matter regardless of fame. They emphasize that legal systems exist precisely to examine claims, weigh evidence, and determine truth, not to protect reputations. The question now is not just whether the allegations are true, it's whether the system will allow the case to fully unfold. What happens next in the bigger picture? As of now, the case is moving through early legal stages. Motions are expected, evidence will be reviewed, witnesses may be called, and both sides are preparing for what could become a lengthy legal battle. For Will Smith, the stakes extend far beyond the courtroom. Every new development will be analyzed, not just by lawyers, but by fans, studios, critics, and the public. In the age of social media, perception can travel faster than facts, and silence can be interpreted in 1,000 different ways. For the plaintiff, the risks are also real. Taking legal action against a global celebrity comes with scrutiny, skepticism, and intense public exposure. But supporters argue that coming forward, regardless of outcome, can encourage others to speak up in situations where power dynamics make silence feel safer. Ultimately, this case reflects a broader shift in Hollywood, a shift where fame no longer guarantees immunity, where allegations are examined, not dismissed, and where the line between legacy and accountability is being redrawn in real time. Whether this lawsuit ends in dismissal, settlement, or trial, one thing is certain. The Will Smith story is no longer just about movies, awards, or redemption arcs. It's about power, it's about trust, and it's about what happens when the spotlight turns inward.